Maya Angelou was coming to our community to speak. At the time, I didn't realize how much of a big deal that was. But I remember her like reading my poem. I don't even remember what the poem was about. And she told me, she was like, you have a gift, keep writing.
That's Melisa D. Monts, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast. Hey guys, I'm your host, Kara Duffy, and this is the Powerful Ladies Podcast, where I invite my favorite humans, the awesome, the up to something, and the extraordinary to come and share their story. I hope that you'll be left entertained, inspired, and moved to take action towards living your most powerful life. Melisa D. Monts is a writer, director, podcaster, producer, screenwriter, and more seriously, she can pretty much do anything needed in the world of film, TV, and podcasting, let alone all of her volunteering. She hustled early, taking on multiple internships at once, and is still hustling today as a producer on 3 podcasts, including one she co-hosts, plus writing and running a team. On this episode, we trace her journey from Arkansas to LA, why she loves Chelsea Handler, how she manages her time because she is the extreme end of what anyone as a human can get done in one day and 1 week. And we talk about the day she was blessed by Saint Maya Angelou. All that and so much more coming up, but first. If you're interested in discovering what possibilities and businesses are available for you to create and to live your most fulfilling life, please visit thepowerfulladies.com/coaching and sign up for a free coaching consultation with me. There is no reason to wait another day to not be living your best life when you instead could be running at full speed towards your wildest dreams today. Hi, welcome to the Powerful Ladies Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Before I have you introduce yourself to everyone listening, I asked Jordan why she recommended you, and I love what she said. She goes, she shows up every day like a boss, and she's like boss on the top and party on the bottom. Like she carries in things in these heels that I've never seen someone carry and like run around in before. I'm like, she's real powerful. I'm like, that sounds powerful.
Wow, that is. I try to present myself in like a I've found when I wear like heels and stuff, people take me a little bit more seriously because I'm petite, and so I try to look the part.
I love it. So everyone knows who they're listening to. Would you mind telling us who you are and what you're up to?
My name is Melisa D. Monts, and I am a producer, director, writer, a little bit of everything.
And you host your own podcast also?
I produce 3 podcasts, and I'm a co-host on one of them. So I produce Not Too Deep with Grace Helbig, Don't Blame Me with Megan Rinks, which I co-host, and then Directionally Challenged with Candace King and Kayla Yule.
I love it. How did you end up in the world of podcasting?
I was working as an assistant for someone, and we worked on television shows and podcasting and movies and stuff, and podcasting was part of it, and from there it just grew.
Are you an LA native, so it's like easy to get into the industry as well? Where are you from?
No, I'm from Arkansas.
What part?
I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas.
And how did you end up out here?
Okay, so I was first studying, I say I'm from Fayetteville, first of all, but I actually moved around a lot as a kid. So I was actually born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I've lived in Tennessee, Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Texas, Kansas. I think that's everything. Yeah, that's everything.
You sound like our family.
Really?
Yes.
And then I ended up back in Arkansas when I was in 8th grade. And my parents promised me once I got to high school, then we wouldn't move anymore. So we ended up back in Arkansas. I went to college at the University of Arkansas. That had always been my plan because my mom went there too. So no matter where we were going to live. And so I went to the University of Arkansas. I was studying biology, actually. So my whole plan was I was going to be a dentist or orthodontist. And I took a dental class and I did not like it at all. And I was like, now I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. And so I went and I talked to my counselor, and she was like, well, you've been taking like these writing classes and producing classes, like just for fun. Maybe that's something you might want to think about as a career. And so this was like at the end of my junior year of college. And so I started looking into different like things within the entertainment industry. And I had, like I said, took a writing class. It was a playwriting class, but then that next semester they offered a screenwriting class for the first time. So I took that and I was like, I really, really love that. And so after I finished with school, I started looking into other programs here, like in Los Angeles. So I came out and I did worked on several student projects just to get my feet wet and learn about different things in the entertainment industry. And once I like did that, I really fell in love. So I saved up some money for a couple years, and then I got in a car, packed up a car. My mom, one of my sisters, and my niece, we drove out here, and from there, it's just like I studied at UCLA, studied filmmaking, and it just kind of, I did a whole bunch of internships, and then it all rolled into like being an assistant and then working on films and podcasting. And from there, that's the story she wrote.
Well, I think you really touched on things that really matter to a lot of the people listening, in the sense of when you know that you have to pivot in life. How do you, sometimes it feels like you're like, I'm pivoting, but I'm going back down to the bottom again. Like I've already worked this far. And so what I really hear is not only the perseverance, but like, how did you choose what paths to take? How did you get your internships? Like, what did the hustle look like from the ground up?
I've always been like, I always see a big picture of what I want my end goal to be. And so from there, I always come up with what my end goal is going to be. And then I set goals. So with the internships, I just like, basically, this is when unpaid internships were still legal. And I was just like looking, and I would just online. There are several websites where you can look, or like through school. And I just go do internship after internship. Like I had friends that were in my programs, and they might do like one internship per semester, but I was constantly doing internships the whole time. And I think and from that, like I learned how to edit, which I wouldn't have learned how to do because that wasn't part of my program that I was in at school. And from the editing really set me up for podcasting. So,
Yeah.
And then like, doing like, I had one where I was, I just did script coverage all day. And so that set me up for the screenwriting. So I do a little bit of everything. And I think that's something that has helped me along the way, because I have a skill in every subset of entertainment. And so I can jump in at any time.
And it gives you so much corporate collateral in being able to, however someone needs you to show up, you're prepared. And even if you're not an expert in that space, you know enough about how it all works together that you can jump in and make it all work.
Exactly. No, and I understand how every part of the process works.
Right. No, it sounds very similar to the path that I was following when I was working in footwear and apparel, where I'm like, okay, if I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to be the CEO of like what we're doing, like how do I know enough of everything where there's no reason for me not to be the boss? And it was strategic, but I also through that, got to pick and choose when opportunities would come up. Like, okay, do I want to keep going down this path and get more knowledge in this area, or do I want to take this other opportunity that will give me an alternative perspective and expand that corporate collateral? And I think that a lot of people get stuck in I have to have this one specific niche. And to me, I'm like, no, like if you don't love it and you're not like, no, I'm just going to draw things for the rest of my life. That's all I want to do. Then I'm like, no, like go do the other things, go try the other things. Cause
Right.
I think there's the illusion that you can't move around. Like it hurts you from a career perspective when in fact, I think it helps when you have the bigger picture and the different skill sets and just scope of work that you can talk to.
Right. And so like for me, like I told you, I'm a writer and producer, not just a podcast, but I had like a show that was on for 4 seasons that you can stream on Amazon Prime. And so like in between my projects, the bigger projects, I always have my podcast too that are still generating income.
What was the show that you can stream on Amazon?
It's called Mr. Student Body President.
What is it again?
Mr. Student Body President.
Oh,
and so
Mr. Student Body President. I was hearing Mr. Shoot the President, and I'm like, I haven't heard of that one.
That's another good name for a show too.
You can have that one. I'll give that one to you. So Mr. Student Body President. Yes, I'm familiar with that one. Okay, awesome. And what is it like seeing your work showing up on Amazon Prime?
It is amazing because it was on another streaming platform called Go90 that Verizon had for a short period of time, and just being on like able for people just to watch it on a screen anywhere was cool. But then taking it to that next level of being on Amazon Prime is even cooler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've done Powerful Ladies partnered with WebFest Berlin last fall. And we did it because I know the woman who founded it, and then she was on the podcast, and it just became this natural fit. But it was so interesting to step into a world that is like not one that I am familiar with, and to see how many parallels there are across industries. But I love the fact that people who are writers and directors and actors and, all the things you need to produce a body of work that for streaming services, to see how many amazing stories there are, and also how they're coming together as a community to help each other's stuff get made and get promoted and found. And I'm like, I love this. Like, I love the grassroots independent spirit that's running through it, which I also see in podcasting to some extent too. Like, how does it feel on the ground? Like, do you feel that camaraderie and collaboration? Do you feel like there's a lot of spaces for people who want to make something today for it to actually come to life?
Yeah, 100%, because we're all walking around with like a full recording studio in our pockets, because our phones can record audio, they can shoot video, and then you can put it up on YouTube and thousands of people, if not millions of people, can see it as soon as you make it. So there's so many opportunities out there.
Do you feel like that's making it more competitive, or is it just meaning that there'll be more content and more platforms for people to take it all in?
I don't think it's more competitive because it seems like every second there's a new streaming service popping up. Yeah. Plus all the networks have their own streaming services. And then you still got traditional TV and cable. There's so many more opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And I know that there's also a big movement when I was at WebFest about really focusing on women. That's why we were invited, because it was the first like gender parity, gender neutral jury and submissions and all of this stuff, and just seeing how women and minorities are getting more attention in that space. I really feel like it's almost like a creative renaissance opportunity if people want to lean in on it. What's making you the most excited about how people are creating content today in films and podcasts and everything else under the sun?
That they're just doing it, and people feel like that they have an outlet to do it, and it's not like this secret Hollywood land where you gotta be somebody's niece or nephew to get into it. You can just make stuff and people can see it, and if it's good, then the right eyes will see it.
Being in this industry, do you have moments when you've like fangirled out on somebody and been like, oh man, that was a little embarrassing?
Yeah. Chelsea Handler was one of the biggest guests that I've had on a podcast before. And I walked up to her to bring her back into the room, and she asked me how I was doing. And I just like looked at her and nodded my head, and it just like that runs in my head all the time, because she's someone like she's a big part of the reason why like I got into the entertainment industry. And I would watch Chelsea Lately all the time. I had all her books. She even when I was coming out here to work on student films, twice I went to go see Chelsea Lately live. And so like being like one-on-one with her, and she was the sweetest person too. And she like put us on her Instagram story. Like she was great. I was just like very nervous when I initially met her. I've met like a lot of celebrities or people that I admire, but she's got to be like the biggest one so far.
And she's pretty badass.
Yeah, she is. 100%.
Who else inspired you in your path?
I think my mom is like one of my biggest inspirations. She has like a BA in journalism. She has a MBA, master's in divinity, and she's currently working on a doctorate. And then she
Damn.
runs all these like, she's runs all of these like organizations that are like social involved, as far as like building up the community. And then she also is an associate director at the University of Arkansas as well. So, and she worked in corporate America. That's why we moved around a lot. It's like every time she got a promotion, then we had to move. So she did a major pivot when she went from corporate America to education. She just like, she's inspiring.
What is it about her that you admire, or what have you tried to take on into your own path?
She's always busy and never bored, and she's always doing something or creating something or being an inspiration to someone. And so that is what really inspires me and drives me.
And what is it, going back to Chelsea, like what about her is what you said, like, that's my person, that's the one that I'm going to like follow and like be inspired by? Like, what is it about her that really you were attracted to?
She made me laugh and just like took ownership of who she was and was very authentic. And even like when she left E, it was because she was just like tired of being so like surface level with her content. And so she just like, and she has her own production company. She just takes ownership and takes up space and knows who she is.
Yeah. When you look at what you're up to for this next year, like what are you excited about? What are you working on right now that everyone else can be on the lookout for?
I really have my head down right now, focusing on my screenwriting, which I had kind of let fall by the wayside recently, but I've finished up the first draft of one screenplay, working on another one and a teleplay right now as well. I'm also I've been prepping for directing my first audiobook. So that's something new that's on the horizon as well.
Very cool. How do you direct an audiobook?
So it's pretty much the same as how you prep for directing TV or movies or anything. You get the script, which is the book, sit down, go through, outline how you want the reader, the person that's narrating the book, to say it, or the direction to give them. Also like looking up words, how they should be pronounced, and being in contact with the author, like about certain names that it may be pronounced, like Lara or Laura spelled the same way, may be pronounced differently. And then just showing up and giving direction to the reader or actors if it's a group setting for a book.
So it seems like your day-to-day and your week are very full. Like, what is your schedule actually look like for people who are like, how is it possible to do everything Melissa's doing?
It changes every day. I mean, like this week, this week's a little different. We are, I don't know when this is coming out, but we are all a little bit in lockdown, quarantined.
Yes.
But
we're filming on March 15th. So,
okay.
or recording on March 15th. So we're going to have some context. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but usually during the week, Mondays, I record Directionally Challenge with Candace and Kayla. Then I come home and I do some writing, editing. And then Tuesdays, I'm usually recording with Megan for Don't Blame Me. Then it's like I record in the morning, come home, write, edit. And then Wednesdays are usually just pure writing. Thursdays I record Not Too Deep, and then Fridays is pure writing. It's also not just me. I have a team. So shout out to Shireen and Katrina and Amanda and all the amazing people that work with me. So
and they're your
Katrina
team.
helps keep.
Oh, sorry. They are your team for writing, for producing. How does the team help you on which projects?
So Amanda does a lot of the videography, and that's for the podcast. And then with Shireen, she helps edit, and she's also my writing partner. And then Katrina does some editing, and then she also creates the promos and marketing for podcasts and social media.
So you're a true example of what a girl squad can create.
Yes, 100%.
When you first moved to LA, were you able to find these women that are now in your squad and like on your team, or like did you have a journey of finding your right fit and your circle in LA? Like how did you get from newbie to where you are today, where you have all these projects and opportunities and a badass team?
Working on a lot of like student films and other just like outside projects. I met a lot of great people. For example, Shireen and I, we worked on this project called Journey of the Vagina, which is like this web series. And so she was a cinematographer on that. And we've stayed friends. That was, I think, 7 or 8 years ago. We stayed friends throughout all that. She does freelancing, directing, and also has podcasts as well. And then once I was able to hire her on to be part of my team, then I brought her on to help with writing and other things that come up. She's a co-producer.
When I think of, is it Journey of the Vagina? Is that the right title?
Yes.
I almost don't want you to tell me what the storyline is because I have 5 different options in my head of what this project could be about. And most of them make me want to laugh. So I'm excited for what that opportunity might be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it never, that was like a project where like every one of us that were working on it, we're all new to LA and still trying to figure things out. So it never really like landed anywhere. You can't see it anywhere. I still have copies of it on my hard drive, but it was a good like learning experience for all of us.
I'm so tempted.
A good networking experience.
I'm so tempted to make that like a exclusive premiere through Powerful Ladies. Never before seen. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, please no.
Nope.
When you look back from, childhood to where you are now, would somebody have guessed that you're doing what you're doing today based on who you were as a kid and what you were up to?
You would think so, because I was always writing stuff. I mean, when I was in I would say like 2nd through 4th grade, I was really, really obsessed with Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah.
And I would sit and write what I didn't know were like teleplays or like scripts, and I would write them at home and then give them to my friends and make them learn the scripts, and then we would like perform them at recess. That was always in the back of my mind, but I always have like my science mind too. So like I never thought of like writing, producing, directing, like that being part of my career. It always just seemed like something fun to do.
Yeah.
And like being a doctor was always the primary focus. But then once I figured out that's not what I wanted to do for a career, like I still sit and like yesterday I was sitting and I was just doing algebra problems just for the fun of it, like just to make sure my brain was still working in that type of way. But I wouldn't have thought that this is where I would end up.
Yeah. Well, I do think that it's a sign of a powerful lady when you are orchestrating all of your friends to do what you want to do. I have similar stories in my own background of like making everyone do school my way, like the pretend school, and organizing a summer camp at our house when I was like 9 or 8. I don't know why my parents said yes to that. But like there's something
now I'm curious about what you were doing at the camp.
Well, we did put on a play. I remember like everyone having to dress up, and we like got T-shirts from, I think my dad or everyone brought one of their like dad size T-shirts, and we made it into something. And I remember like some people had face paint on, but I don't remember why. Like it was like a week of, I think, me forcing the neighborhood to do things. And at the end we presented a play. That's what I remember.
Wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. There's a few pictures that still exist of it. But there's something I think really empowering about just like doing it, like just doing it because you can, right? Like you did your teleplays for Powerful Rangers and you made your friends perform it and you're like, okay, this is a good day, guys. Thanks. It's a wrap.
Yeah. Thank you. I get mad if they weren't doing it right, but yeah. When you think of Powerful Ladies as individual words and as a combined phrase, what does it symbolize to you today, and how has that changed over time for you? Powerful Ladies, I think to me that means someone that empowers people. So they not only lead, but they also are an example of how to be a leader and also pull up others around them, other women around them, and present opportunities for them.
And has that changed over time for you, or has that kind of been like what you always thought it was?
That's always been how I thought it was. I remember when I was about 10, there was this essay contest where Maya Angelou was coming to our community to speak to just like a group of girls. And there was like this essay contest where you could write a poem, any type of writing, and then she would like read it. And
Very
so
cool.
like I remember her, I know it was like at the time I didn't realize how much of a big deal that was. But I remember her like reading my poem. I don't even remember what the poem was about. And she told me, she was like, you have a gift, keep writing. And that's something that's always like stuck in my head. And I'm sure she probably told every girl this something along the same lines, but it was just like having somebody that was a published author, and I didn't know that she, like at the time, that she was a director and actress and activist and all these amazing things, but she said words that always spoke to me.
So hold on. So we are currently in the presence of someone who, as a writer, was blessed by Maya Angelou.
Yeah.
Do you put that on your resume? Like, I feel like that should be on your LinkedIn.
I don't. I haven't, and I haven't given much thought to it.
I want someone to illustrate this now. Like, I want an illustration of Saint Maya Angelou, like, blessing you and your writing. And you're just like, oh, thank you. Yeah.
I'm just like a brat, like 10-year-old that's like,
whatever, lady,
cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, lady. Thank you so much. Where like all the adults around us are like freaking out. And I was like, yeah, seems pretty cool. I like her voice.
Seems cool for a grandma.
Remember. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember at that. I think, that would have been after. I do remember because she spoke at Bill Clinton's inauguration. I remember seeing her on TV for that. So that would have been after. So I remember that, but still like that it wasn't as big of a deal for me
Yeah.
then as it is now.
As a 10-year-old, there's no context to it at all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like you like go up, say thank you, shake her hand. You're like, cool, can we get ice cream now? And your parents are
Right.
like, wait, hold on. This is
Yeah.
a moment that you are not appreciating.
Exactly.
When you were talking about what you admire about Chelsea and your mom and even Maya Angelou just now, I really heard in your share like this this red line of someone being like a social justice warrior and like
Yeah.
standing up for themselves and also people in their community who like cannot stand up for themselves or don't have access to. How important is that to you and what you're creating and the stories that you want to tell?
Oh, that's so important to me. It shocks me how much people just don't care about other people, how selfish people are. And so just like in my everyday life, I do a lot of volunteer work. Like I volunteer with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I have a little sis that's 10 years old, and I try to be like a good example for her. And then I also volunteer with like an organization called Happy Period, where they provide menstrual products to women that are homeless. Food Forward, which is another organization where we go around to different farmers markets, because a lot of times they throw away the food that they don't have at the end of that they don't sell at the end of the day. So we pick up boxes, and then someone comes and takes those to different homeless shelters. And then just any way I can give back, I try to.
What are the topics or issues that matter most to you if you had to choose?
Women's rights, immigration's another big one. I took a trip down to the border with this organization called This Is About Humanity last year, and it's like we go down to the border and learn more about the crisis and make sure that this is mainly about like the children being separated from their parents. And so with that organization, they it's like making sure that the information doesn't get lost in the news cycle, that people are still talking about it. So immigration's a big one that I care about too. And just caring. It's just like my biggest thing is just like giving people to give a fuck about what's going on in the world. Getting outside your bubble.
Yes. Yes. And is that something that you've been passionate about your whole life, or was there a moment that it like you saw an injustice that you just had to, that it ignited your passion for it?
It's my whole life. I've always been volunteering. Like I said, my mom is the lead of a few organizations, and then like I thought that people volunteering was just like a normal thing that people did. My family, mom, dad, sisters, we always volunteered. And then as I got older, I realized that it wasn't something that everyone did. And that bothered me a lot. So it's always been in my mind.
Yeah. What do you feel like there are privileges that you have had based on the strength and connection with your immediate family that you were, lucky to be born into?
Yeah, my parents are still married. I'm very close to my parents and my sisters, and and even my like extended family, we're all really close, and it really, as I grew older and realized that people weren't as close with their family and friends or their family members or and their parents, it really hurt my heart that like parents just didn't care. Some people's parents just didn't care. Like, why would you decide to bring people in the world that you don't care about? Or just like other people just not talking to family members. It just boggles my mind. So I think that because of that, I can see a lot of good in the world. And a lot of things anger me, but they don't bring me down. They don't like kill my spirit. So I use that anger to drive change.
I love it. No, I think that, Jordan and I are really lucky to be part of a similar family. Like our parents are both still married. There's 4 of us kids. We're all pretty close. In fact, we were like driving around with our dad the other day trying to help him house hunt. So
Yeah.
like it catches me off guard when like your family isn't like all up in your business. I'm like, is that a privilege people can have? Like I didn't know that was a choice.
Yeah.
But I feel really lucky about that. And I really feel that a lot of my personal like self-confidence or fearlessness about trying some things other people think are scary comes from the fact that I didn't have to worry about those family foundational things that other people may have. And so like part of my mission is getting rid of the word like I can't. Like empowerment is so important to me. And I truly believe that there's a blend of, your personal confidence, access to resources and education, and like access to a community that needs to bring all of this together, which I mean, ultimately is the foundations for the Powerful Lady structure. But I just want everyone to know they can do whatever they want in the world. Like it's actually possible to be a thing. And as you said, like be nice. Like we're so much more alike than anything else. Like, going back to the border crisis and the immigration and separating families, I just step back and I say, hold on. If somebody tried to separate my family, like I would lose my shit. Like
me too.
Who thought that was a solution? Like it makes me think that like a mother probably didn't think that was a solution.
100% it wasn't.
And it's like,
it's set up to psychologically scar people. It's set up by these government officials that think they're better than other people. And so they do it to psychologically scar people, because when you tear apart a family, then you're putting this mental thing in there that's going to last in the rest of their lives. Even when a lot of these kids are getting reunited with their parents, they don't even remember who their parents are.
Yeah.
And that's disgusting and sad.
Well, I mean, if we have an issue separating mothers and babies from the animal world, why would we do it to humans? Like, that's the part that I'm
because the people that are doing it are dehumanizing the humans. It's all about dehumanizing them.
I believe Gandhi has a quote about, the cultures and countries and civilizations in the world that have the best quality of life are often the ones you can measure that are also giving the best quality of life to the animals in their space. And I think it really speaks to the empathy and the universal connection that people are just accepting. And we had a guest on a couple episodes ago. We were talking about like what makes Canada so great sometimes, about how they have a pretty good policy of really focusing on diversity, and they have an onboarding process for if you're an immigrant into the country. And they're really good at doing, in my opinion, this third part, my personal opinion, of really doing good internal PR. Like they do good, like be proud to be Canadian PR. And this is what Canada stands for from a very humanistic perspective. And I just wonder, like, there are moments when I wish 5-year-olds were in charge of government decisions, because they wouldn't choose anything that would hurt someone. They would, I mean, we might have to like calm down on like everyone gets sugary cereals for life or something, but they're going to choose like, no, like people should love each other. People should be happy. People should have food. People should have a home. Like they know what they need. So I think that they would speak to that. And I don't know what happens to us as adults where we lose that we all need the same things.
Right. It's like America is the greatest and everyone else sucks. And that is not the mindset that we should have.
Yeah. And even within our own country.
Like, God bless America, but fuck everybody else.
Yeah. And even in the U.S., we have a hierarchy, whether we want to accept it or not.
Yeah, we do.
Are you hopeful that what's happening with, I'm just going to generalize, like people under 35 and even people under 20? Like, do you see positive change happening in a way that gives you encouragement that fundamental changes are happening or on the brink of happening at a more rapid pace?
Honestly, I think that people, the it's still a small amount of people that are trying to make change. I don't think that it's been like an exponential growth. I think that that you're hearing it or seeing it more because of social media, but it's still like for that one person that's speaking out, there's like 5 other people that aren't doing anything or don't care.
Yeah.
So I just think the more vocal that we are, then maybe it will seep into other people's heads. But I don't know. I want it to be better, but I don't know. Like the fact that we have never had a woman president just baffles me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when we have these super qualified women that are running, even like just this election cycle, and they're not getting any votes that propel them to be in the next, like to be seen as like a major competitor in, or even like the last 2 standing. It's just bonkers to me.
I'm curious when the data research comes out, when we look at for all of the candidates that were running for the Democratic Party for this election cycle, I'm really curious how often in traditional media the women were shown, mentioned, or spoken about.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren was a front runner for a long time, and then they just stopped talking about her for a while.
Yeah.
And then right before everyone was casting votes in the primaries. And that makes no sense to me, but we're still talking about other candidates that weren't.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes 0 sense.
What I'd like to come back to, because what I'm clear on is that I thought you already had a full schedule before we went into your volunteering and activism. So I'm wondering, like, do you do things that normal people would do, like hang out with friends and go to the gym and like sleep?
Yeah, I go. I am getting better about my sleep. I was like at the point where I was only like sleeping 5 hours a day, but I've made it so that and I was barely functioning. And so I've made sure now that I get 8 hours of sleep every day, as much as possible.
Yeah.
And then I go to the gym pretty much every day. I also have like a bike at home, so I work out every day. Hang out with friends. I have had to like limit myself to one social activity a week, whether it's on the weekend or during the week. But also like when I go, a lot of my workout classes are like I go with friends as well.
Yeah.
So that's a social activity.
Yeah.
And then all the wonderful women that I work with, that I do podcasts with, are my friends as well. So it doesn't even seem like work sometimes. It just seems like we're getting together to hang out. So
Yeah.
I think incorporating work and friendships, and once I was able to get into a position where I didn't have to work with assholes anymore, it actually like made my life a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, I'm such a big component on doing your own blend of things, because you get to do what you enjoy. You get to work with and hire whoever you want. And if you're having fun and you're working, it's a 2-for-1. It's like, it's check 18 boxes all at once, because you can. I think that there are a lot of people who get stuck taking the leap into what they care about or trying something out because they're really attached to their very comfortable schedule, where, you know, I just work, you know, a 9 to 5, I come home, I get to do whatever I want. I can go to dinner every night. I can cook. I can, you know, there's all these things that we've kind of have added value to that may or may not really have us be satisfied, when I'm personally a person that will like throw it all in a pot and mix it up together and see what I'm
Yeah.
actually able to do in a week. Now,
Yeah.
saying that, I also am in a period of time where I know I have to get more balance and I have to scale back my working hours because it's too much. But I'm also doing it for all things that I care about. Like there's such a difference of working 14 hours a day for your business and what you love and what brings you joy than working 14 hours for someone else. And the reason you're working 14 hours is because they can't get their shit together when you could have done it in 1 hour.
Right.
Like it's a totally different perspective.
It is.
For people
And
who, please go ahead.
I don't, yeah. I was just going to say, I'm not going to knock anybody that has a 9 to 5 that like satisfies you. And that's great for you, but that's not good for me. Like I get bored. I can't just show up and do the same thing every day. Every day my job is something different.
Yeah. And there are other people that would give a heart attack to if they didn't know what to expect every day. So totally. We want you thriving at where you want to be. Like the bridge I'm trying to create is if you're not where you want to be in some area of your life, I'm like, call me. We're going to figure it out.
Yeah. I love it.
I haven't gone so far as to put my phone number on the website yet, but we might get there one day.
You can get a Google Voice number. People can leave you voice messages.
That actually brings me total joy. Like one of my clients one time said that I should have like an Ask Kara Instagram account where like people could answer and I could post my answers. But I think a Google Voice where I just want the voicemails because they're so fun to play back.
Yeah.
You just gave me a new idea. Yes. For people who are following in your footsteps, what advice would you give them to either avoid some of the potholes that you've hit or to stay motivated through the whole journey?
I would say when you're first starting out and you don't know a lot about what you're doing, put your head down and just do the work. But also know that your time and the work that you're doing is valuable and you shouldn't be taken advantage of, because I have been in situations where I've been taken advantage of because of all the things that I can do. And they're like, oh, you can do that, then you can do that for less money than what if we hired somebody else, like that's just their single job to do.
Right. We'll just add it on top of what you're already doing, but not pay you any more money.
So don't let people take advantage of you, that was some things that I fell into. But
real quick on that, I'd love to talk through like how do you protect yourself? How do you create those barriers when you are such a multi-talented person? Like how do you have that conversation when they say like, oh, hey, I know we hired you for photography, but since you can market and do Instagram and blah, 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 like, can you do all of it? And it'll be the same rate. What do you say back?
So then I sit down and on my own, I wrote out exactly what each job that I was doing, how much the market rate was for that to get paid, and then how many hours it took me, the job description, and then every single step in every day, because sometimes really people just they're so busy doing their own thing that they don't realize how much work that you're putting in. So for like 3 weeks, I wrote down every single thing I was doing, put it on in a spreadsheet, and then said, hey, can we sit down, have a talk? So I sat down, we talked it out, and I just said, this is all the work that I'm doing. I really love doing it. I would love to continue doing it, but I think that I should be paid more money for it. And I've done that twice in my career, and both times it was the people just didn't realize how much work I was putting in. It just went over their head.
Totally. And I've been in that position as a person hiring someone or as a leader where like I'm running around with my head cut off and then I'm like, oh, you can do it. Great. Let's go. And I know that I love when people stop me and say like, hey, you're not an idiot, but I think you might be an idiot in this area. Can I educate you? And I'm like, yes, please. And
I go ahead.
No, and that's my philosophy with so many things. Like if someone's occurring to me as an idiot or maybe an asshole, or I'm like, how could they do this? I'm like, time out. Do I need to educate somebody about what I see or my perspective? And often when I follow your advice and do that, I like relieved, embarrassed, and like, oh my gosh, thank you for telling me.
Right. Right. And now that I am a boss, I regularly check in with the people that work for me and like, are you being fairly compensated? Tell me everything you're doing. Is this too much? Do we need to pull back on this? Because, that is how you create a great environment for which people want to work in. And so like the fact that I've had someone call me like they said that I was a great role model for them, which I was like, I'm a role model. And then they're like, you're like a amazing boss. And it just like, it really like helped me see that like that when I'm doing what I should be doing, then people appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what was the other advice you gave for women rising behind you?
To always speak up. For example, one of the people that now they were doing freelance for me a couple years ago, but now she's on like my team. She was like, I really want to work on this other project that you have, and I'll work on it for less money if you don't have the budget for it. And I told her, I was like, don't ever say that to anyone, ever. Like if you enjoy working on it, I can bring you on in like a limited capacity, but don't ever sell yourself short for any job, ever.
I love that.
Once the job kept, like I was able to bring her on in a fuller capacity once we were able to grow the position more. So
it sounds like you get a lot of pride out of being able to mentor and guide and be the leader that you wish you always had for people.
Yeah. It's so easy not to be an asshole, and I don't understand why people don't see that. Like it's so easy. Just have compassion for people. Remember where you were. I don't believe in like this thing where I did it, so that's how it's supposed to be done, or I had to struggle. Like no one has to struggle. Pay people what they should be paid, what their worth is, or you continue to do the work. It's easy as that.
And I think the reality is that everyone's going to have your own struggle, no matter what position you're in or what you have. So like, you don't need to be the one to like force the struggle on somebody. Like,
right.
There's going to be enough struggles that happen without you helping. So it doesn't need to be the same struggle as yours. Like, why not clear the path, right? Like, I love the quote of like, may the bridges I burn light your way. Like, I hope that the pain and suffering that any one person's had to go through will not have to be replicated for like for everyone to get it.
100%.
Well, someday.
I listened to this podcast called Script Notes, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's like this that's two big like Hollywood screenwriters that created this podcast that they don't get like any money for it. They just do it to help writers that are coming up in the business or even seasoned writers. And they have been very like instrumental in getting a lot of the old way that Hollywood was performing changed.
I love that.
And I love it. Yeah.
So you have 3 podcasts that you're working on. You're co-hosting one yourself. You have produced a show that's on Amazon. You are volunteering. You are a boss lady. You are creating all these things. You keep writing. Like what are you striving for now, and what are you chasing? Like what's next on your list, and what do you see as an ultimate goal if you have one?
My ultimate goal is to have, which I already have on a small scale, but I would love to have a huge production company where I can, it's women focused, where under the umbrella is all, I have podcasts and TV shows and movies, and any other thing that's new and pops up in media, because it's always changing. So I want to have that big production company, where I can just satisfy everything that I'm interested in the entertainment industry. So I love Shonda Rhimes, and she's got Shondaland, where she's has podcasts and had half the shows on ABC, but now she's moved over to Netflix.
Yep.
She's got a big deal with one of these radio networks, and then also like Ava DuVernay has her company and has Array, which is like a distribution company where she helps people of color get their projects seen. And so
She's so awesome, by the way.
she's so amazing. Yeah. And so those are some of the women that in the entertainment industry that really I look to and figure out, like I see like what I get on there, like IMDb Pro, and figure out like what different positions they're creating for people, and figure out how I can have those positions or work towards those positions in my own company.
I think it's so important to be looking at the people who are ahead of you or around you, and essentially like copying whatever they do. That's awesome. Like, take the best practices. Like, what path did they follow? How did they leapfrog to where they're going? Not that you have to do it yourself, but
Right.
it's like, no, like there's all this information out there. Like, go study everything you can about whoever's living the closest path to your life. Like, why wouldn't you get the Cliff Notes? Like, again, about like making it easier on ourselves. Like, if you want to be the next Gabby Bernstein, like, go study what Gabby Bernstein's done. Like,
Exactly.
there's room for all of us. So, but like, don't live in the place of, oh, they must have done something magical that I'll never be able to figure out. It's like, no, like all regular humans, just at speeds right now. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like Ava DuVernay says she didn't even pick up a camera till she was 30. So like there's no like you're not too late or too early, or there's no just like right time for anything. You just have to do it.
What is your favorite thing about co-hosting a podcast?
Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar at all with this podcast that I co-host. It's called Don't Blame Me. It is a call-in advice show. And when we first started, we were getting very like high schooly questions, like, I don't know how to tell this boy that I like him and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? We can't do this. This is not. Megan, she was 24 or 23 at the time. She's 26 now. And I'm like 7-8 years older than her. And I was like, this is not helping anybody. So we just need to do an episode about sex. And then when we did that episode, we got so many calls that it expanded for 2 or 3 episodes. And then we kind of just like, once we hit that threshold, that changed the type of calls that we get in. So we're getting a lot of like mental health calls and sexual calls as well, and dating and like toxic friends. And our biggest thing is like, if which it's a quote that Megan heard from her therapist, but it's a famous quote, is like, if it's hysterical, it's historical. So if something is bothering you, it probably has something to do with something in the past that we need to like get into and figure out why you're reacting to these situations. And so it's really just like, it's become a community, not just through the podcast and people. You don't want to see my DMs on Instagram and people send me the most graphic questions about things in their lives that I don't want to know. And I'm like, you know that I can like look at your pictures and figure out who you're talking about in these things. But like, just like a sisterhood, we've got a private Facebook group as well where people are sharing like experiences about things that they're going through. And it's very exclusive. Our decline rate is much higher than our approval rate, because we've got very specific questions that we ask each person, because we want it to be such a like safe environment where people can be open about who they are. And so I've just realized like how much we actually help people with the podcast. At first it was just going to be something fun, and like the tagline of the show was like, you can ask whatever you want, but you can't, like, don't blame me if the advice is bad. But now it's like actually like we're actually giving like useful, valuable, life-changing advice. And since we've been doing it for 3 seasons now, we've got people like they called in first season and they've told us like how much their life has changed in the last 3 years just because of one piece of advice that we gave them.
How
so
awesome.
It's just empowering. Yeah.
No, it's so incredible. Like, this is
Yeah.
such a great example of how one person with, or I guess technically 2 people with 2 microphones and a phone, like, you're making this ripple effect. And it's not like podcasting is hard work, and giving advice that you would give to a friend isn't brain surgery, right?
Right.
It's so doable. Like, the impact that you're making and the impact other people can make, like, it's not hard to make the impact you want to make. Just like it's not hard to not be an asshole.
Right.
Just
100%.
do it. Just share and do it and be nice.
Yeah.
When you look at what's ahead of you, like, what are you excited and lit up about? Like, what is getting you up in the morning and being like, yes, like, let's go. I got things to do. And if that's not your vibe, you can translate that to your vibe.
I don't like being bored ever. Like, I'm never ever just sitting and it's like, oh, I need something to do. It's like I get my sleep, I get up, and I look at my every day I'm constantly adding things to my to-do list, and then the night before I slot it into places on my calendar. It's like, I know it's going to take me this amount of time to do this, and this is when I'm going to get it done, blah, blah, blah. So that's how, like, I get my day set every day, and I know what I have to do, and I get so much enjoyment for hitting mark complete when I'm done with the task. So I just love being active, and I feel like every podcast that I do brings some type of different joy to everyone. Every like script that I'm writing has some type of like underlying meaning to life in it. So I just feel like I'm incorporating all my beliefs into what I do, so it never really feels like work.
Well, we ask everyone on the podcast where they put themselves in the Powerful Lady scale.
Okay.
0 is average everyday human. 10 is the most powerful lady you can imagine. Where would you rank yourself today? And where do you think you rank yourself on average?
Okay. Today I would put myself at a 0 just because I'm still in my pajamas. And we're like Skyping. Actually, no, this is what we're doing right now is, I think it's above average. So I'm going to put it at like a 4.
All right.
Then when I put everything that I'm doing, like encompassing my whole week for this week, I'd put it at like a 6. Then like 10's Oprah. I'm not there yet, but I will be.
Yeah, I like that.
But I will be.
I love it. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want everyone listening to know about you, or, advice for them, or anything else you want to speak to before we wrap up today?
I think the biggest thing is just like to be yourself. And that took me a long time to realize that I could just be like goofy and fun and be able to share who my true self was without like, I wouldn't say dumbing myself down, but just like not fully presenting who I was. I think just because I grew up always moving around, and so I had to adjust to the people there because I thought I needed to fit into who I thought I saw the cool, quote unquote, cool people were. And then once I really like became myself, which I don't think it happened until I was maybe like 24, 25. That's when I really enjoyed life and not enjoyed it as a like version of myself that I thought I needed to be.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much to being a yes to the Powerful Ladies podcast.
Thank you for having me on.
Of course. Thank you for sharing your very inspiring story. And I can't wait to support you and cheer for you as you become Oprah.
Thank you. And I really, really enjoy what you're doing. This is amazing and phenomenal. So kudos to you.
Thank you so much. I think Melisa just broke the standard on what it means to be a powerful lady. How does she get it all done? I know she told us, and I'm still amazed. Not only is she a total boss, she's out there making a difference with the causes and the communities and the people that matter to her. May we all find more of the Melisa in each of us. To support, connect, and follow Melisa, you can find her on Instagram and Twitter at SheIsNotMelisa. And of course, we have links to all of her podcasts, all of her shows, everything available on Amazon and elsewhere, even her episode that she recorded with Chelsea Handler. It's all available in this episode's show notes at thepowerfulladies.com/podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this new episode of the Powerful Ladies podcast. If you're a yes to Powerful Ladies and want to support us, you can subscribe to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating and leave a powerful review on Apple Podcasts. You can also be one of our Patreons for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/powerfulladies, where you can get access to exclusive content that we're making just for you. Follow us on Instagram at Powerful Ladies and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. And of course, visit our website, thepowerfulladies.com, for all the latest news, details, and updates. I'd like to thank our producer and audio engineer, Jordan Duffy. Without her, this wouldn't be possible. You can follow her on Instagram at Jordan K. Duffy. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, I hope you're taking on being powerful in your life. Go be awesome and up to something you love. This episode of The Powerful Ladies is made possible by our Patreon subscribers. Did you know that for as little as $1 a month, you can support this podcast? You can send us love, tell us that you want more. You can support all of our events and all that we're doing in the world to fulfill on our full circle of empowerment. It starts at $1 a month. That's less than the coffee you're drinking a day. And there's so many more levels that give you more bonuses and fun things and behind the scenes information. So go to our Patreon, patreon.com/powerfulladies, and support us today. Thank you in advance.